In the year 1981, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration began launching a new series of rockets. These were easily the longest-lasting program of NASA, spreading from 1981 to 2011, and the rockets I grew up learning and hearing about. Created out of an ever-shrinking budget, the shuttle was designed to be reusable at almost every stage. The main shuttle itself is the one everyone knows about being reusable. Each shuttle would land on a runway similar to a plane. The others were the solid rocket boosters, or SRBs, which would give a massive initial burst of speed and thrust before detaching and landing in the Atlantic Ocean to be collected at a later time for reuse. Both of these reusable features saved a tremendous amount of money, but also led to the Challenger and Columbia disasters. These disasters, however, were not due to poor engineering, contrary to public opinion, but rather a lack of funding. Congress had been steadily cutting the budget for NASA due to no major discoveries or accomplishments that play well on TV, such as landing on the moon. Yes, this massive list of spin-off technology that greatly improves daily life here on Earth doesn't play well on TV. I guess. With this hindered budget, NASA didn't have a choice but to reuse the Columbia shuttle with a damaged heat shield, and had no option but to continue with the Challenger launch despite the cold temperatures. It wasn't engineering that killed those people. It was short-sightedness and a hatred or ignorance of science. But why am I saying all this, other than my love of science and space? Well, it's because I idolized the rocket from my childhood so much that I challenged myself to build it in the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, not everything is going to translate one-to-one or be an exact perfect replica. The central fuel stage, for example, will be nigh impossible to replicate in Tears of the Kingdom, as that would require a lot of batteries, and the weight would cause any fan-based system to not have enough power to lift the whole rocket. The SRBs will also be nowhere near the same size as in the real world, nor will they be reusable, and nor will they burn for as long, for the same weight-to-thrust reasons as before. God, I'm such a fucking nerd. Overall, my main goal for this rocket will be for it to be a simple way to get into the higher sky region and be able to be deployed almost anywhere. The shuttle must also disconnect from the main rocket to be pilotable, similar to the real thing. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to move laterally. The idea is for this to be a simple rocket that I can use to easily access the sky at any time. With that, let's cover the first prototype.
Chip.
It is time to see if I can make...
Everything's done on my own time.
I can recreate the space shuttle. So this first one starts off in the Necluda area of Hyrule. I used mostly materials that were around me, but subsequent launches will have been done at Terrytown because easier access to launches, as we'll see monster problems, and a just generally flatter environment.
Jacob's bitch ass doesn't want to get on.
The initial versions, in order to create the general shape and size, I would use tree logs to emulate the size, shape, and look of the fuel canister and the SRBs. It didn't work too well as it added too much weight. And you'll see here I got distracted by an Octorock that was bothering me.
Yeah?
I would highly recommend buying a lazy boy chair.
I can't, bro. I hate this fucking chairs.
Really?
What's a lazy boy chair?
It's a brand of chair.
I don't hate them. It's just when it comes to chairs and couches and shit, I fall asleep so easily in them, bro. I'm like a dad, a father.
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah.
Bro, I was trying to watch a PlayStation showcase, and I just passed.
The other thing to note here is I'm using the wing item for the space shuttle, as that will be the most easily pilotable, but I knew even then that future versions would get away from this, as the wing will despawn after a while. And I wanted this to basically be able to go wherever. I don't ever
one of those
describe something
couches.
that way again.
It's gonna stitch itself to the couch.
I just sent y'all an invite.
Yeah, I'm doing. Yeah, so Brian, what do you think of all the mods 8? Think that's too many? With server run?
Probably. I don't know what the upper bound limit of this server is. I haven't fully stress tested it. I think the best way to stress test would be Poetica, but I don't know anyone who wants to do that. And here we'll have the general shape of the rocket. You can see what looks like the SRBs and what looks like the fuel tank. Now it's just a matter of connecting everything together. This initial one was obviously not perfect. It was pretty terrible. I'm using rockets here to emulate the SRBs, which I would continue to use in later versions. But you'll see that I'm also going to apply the wing in such a way that the plan is for me to launch it from one side, jump off, and then be able to control it from the wing. You'll see it later, but it really doesn't work the way I wanted it to, especially.
Are you gonna come in like this?
In order for the central fuel tank to have some similar functionality, I did include batteries on it, but it wasn't going to be enough to be the whole body of it. The other thing is, because of the way the steering stick works, I would need to be completely parallel to the ground, and standing on the wing with it being perpendicular would not allow that. So I had to create an initial platform that I would stand on to control it. So at this point, the rocket is complete, and I'm going to try and launch it from here, but find out that just due to the size and how cumbersome it is, it's not going to launch here, like, at all. There's nothing that will hold it up. It's going to keep falling down. So I keep looking for a flat space, and I remember that there is a wall over this way. So I start heading that way, slowly walking the rocket across the field, past all the enemies. Tried in some of the flatter land, and it's not going to work. Tried against the wall, and it does not quite want to stand up. So, because I've got a new stockpile of supplies here, I decide to build a launch platform of sorts. Similar to the way NASA actually launches their rockets. This initial platform wasn't meant to be a flat surface, rather a guide to hold the rocket in place. I did continue this trend in later versions of the rocket. The problem that I would come across, though, is in Tears of the Kingdom, there is a limit on the amount of items that you can ultra hand to each other. And when that limit is reached, some other join becomes undone. I'm actually surprised I did not come across that in this version because of just how many supplies I used and glued together, as it were. So, platform's nearly done. I'm trying to reinforce the legs a bit so it stands straight with the added weight of the rocket. My thought is just kind of place the rocket inside. But it's very unstable being this tall. So I'm going to have to flip it around and add a couple extra legs to the backside. Another issue that will come up in future versions is I'm using primarily wood here, and especially with that enemy camp nearby, if they strike at that with a metal weapon, it will break the wood. So here I've got what I think will hold it, just trying to lean it up against it. It holds good for a second. Trying to climb up it here, because it's built in such an unorthodox way, and here I accidentally build the rocket instead of saving it in instead of saving it. The rocket constantly, though, wants to fall out or push the platform, so I decide with stability, the rocket actually hit me right there. That it doesn't really matter how I set it in there, it's going to constantly fall out, so I'll build a little trough for the rocket to sit in. Which, after some shaking, ends up working. And we see that I did alert the monsters, so if they came over and started swinging with metal weapons against this, they would have broken it. But we have the first launch, so let's see how this goes. We get quite a decent amount of height. The rockets die, and shortly after, it does not have the power to lift itself. You'll see there I jumped off hoping that I could jump backwards and land on the wing. And it was enough fall damage to almost instantly kill me, but that's version 1.